Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge. My name is Trustee Francis, and I'm filling in for Mayor Grasso, who is out of town. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight we are honored to have Gabriella Ganell with us. Gabriella is a fourth grade student at Gower West School in Miss Julian's class, and her favorite subject is science. Gabriella is in beginner band and art club at Gower West, and she also takes dance and gymnastics outside of school. Her special interests include she's planning a trip with her family to Hawaii to visit other family members, and she likes living in Burr Ridge because of all of her friends are here, and it's a safe place to live. She's here tonight with her parents, Josh and Stephanie, and her younger brother, Jacob. Gabriella, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gabriella. Thomas, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Francis?
Here.
Trustee Scampa?
Here.
Trustee Paveza?
Here.
Trustee Snyder?
Here.
Trustee Mattal?
Here.
Trustee Model?
Here.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda are presentations and public hearings. I don't believe there's any presentations or public hearings this evening. So we'll move forward to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk on this agenda are considered to be routine business by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member, a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, discussed by the board, open for public comment, and then voted upon during the meeting. Item 5A, minutes. Approval of regular board meeting of January 27th, 2020. B, approval of special meeting, budget workshop of January 27th, 2020. C, receive and file ad hoc complete count committee meeting of January 28th, 2020. And D, receive and file plan commission meeting of February 3rd, 2020. 6A, ordinances. Approval of an ordinance amending section 10E of Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to add a child care center as a special use in the LI Light Industrial District, Z03 2020, text amendment, child care center. B, approval of an ordinance granting a special use for a child care center in the LI Light Industrial District, Z03 2020, 6880 North Frontage Road, Hayes. And C, approval of an 7, resolutions. There are none. 8, considerations. A, consideration of census-related mailings. I apologize. 8B, approval of a plan commission recommendation to approve a variation to permit outdoor storage of one commercial vehicle and attachments to be used for snow removal, V01 2020 Oak Creek Subdivision, Corello. C, approval of Mayor Grasso's recommendation to reappoint Pat Liss as chairperson of the Pathway Commission for a 3-year term expiring on September 10th, 2021. D, approval of Mayor Grasso's recommendation to reappoint Mary Lou McGurr as secretary of the Pathway Commission for a 3-year term expiring on September 10th, 2021. E, approval of Mayor Grasso's recommendation to reappoint Elaine Layden to the Pathway Commission for a 3-year term expiring on July 13th, 2021. F, approval of Mayor Grasso's recommendation to reappoint Todd Davis to the Pathway Commission for a 3-year term expiring on September 10th, 2021. G, approval of Mayor Grasso's recommendation to reappoint Louisa Hawk to the Pathway Commission for a 3-year term expiring on September 10th, 2020. And H, approval of a vendor list dated February 10th, 2020 in the amount of $265,799.79 for all funds, plus $197,453.51 for payroll for the period ending January 25th, 2020, for a grand total of $463,253.30 which includes special expenditures of $31,083.33 to Kivett for consulting and website services. Could I please have a motion to approve consent agenda items 5A, B, C, D, 6A, 6B, 8B, 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, and 8H.
So moved. Second.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like any agenda items removed from the consent agenda?
Possibly change. The website says that the residence comments will be free.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You have to come up and speak, please.
The website says that the resident comments are at section, are at 3 as well as 9, so before and after the meeting?
No, the rules of the meeting and the website are not up to date, so this is the current board rules that have been approved, that are listed here in the agenda, so it is in section 9 only. Is that correct?
Okay, so what's published
Yes.
on the website is incorrect?
Yeah, they both, the public comment session appears after the vote is taken. The question right now is whether any of the items that appear on the consent agenda that the board is going to consider voting on next should be removed. So
Okay.
the chairman asked if anyone in the audience wanted any items removed from that unanimous
I don't want anything
consent
removed, I
vote.
just wanted to know, are we going to follow the agenda on the website, or are we changing it to a different agenda that's published here now?
The copy of the board's rules that I have, the order of the agenda is that public comment follows these votes. And that's both on the printed agenda and on the code that, copy that I have.
And that's also published on your website.
I don't have a physical copy, so.
We just
Okay.
we were not aware that there was a agenda on the website that published it differently than what you see here tonight. We'll check into that and make sure.
Okay, so we're going to have the
make sure
comments
that-
at the end and not at the beginning.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else would consider having anything removed from the consent agenda in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Can I just clarify, for each item though, on the agenda, Mayor Grasso is usually asked if there's any public comment. So even if there's not public comment at the beginning of the meeting, there is public comment during the meeting as well as at the end.
That is correct.
But items that are on the consent agenda will not be commented on unless somebody wants them removed.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Please take the roll.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, thank you. Okay. Item 6C was removed. Mr. Model?
Yes, thank you for the floor. The reason for my request to remove is that I previously stated I have a problem approving any new liquor licenses. I had concerns about the liquor commissioner being a weak liquor commissioner. I now have an additional concern related to the liquor commissioner, and that is that it appears he's violating Article 15 of the State Officials Employees Ethics Act, which has also been adopted as part of our village code. There's a section 2.76. Now this is on page, I believe, 32 out of 38 of our village code. Anyway, section 2.76, Doug could pull it up, I suppose. It says solicitation of gifts. And the solicitation or appearance of gifts prohibited to be solicited or accepted under the act by any officer or employee of the village is hereby prohibited. A talks about campaign contributions, and B says prohibition on sales from commissioner. The Liquor Control Commissioner and members of his or her immediate family may not sell or offer to sell any person or entity holding or applying for a liquor license any product, thing, or service which may be used by the licensee in carrying on the licensed business. Immediate family, for the purposes of this subsection, shall mean spouse, children, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, parent or sibling of the Liquor Control Commissioner. And then section C further clarifies gifts included. In addition to those items defined as gifts under section 1 through 5 of the State Officials and Employees Ethics Act, the term gift is hereby defined to further include the opportunity for the Liquor Control Commissioner or his or her immediate family to sell any product, thing, or service to a liquor licensee or applicant with any resultant benefit or profit to the Liquor Control Commissioner or his or her immediate family. Now, we've talked about this. It's well known that Gary's son has a contract with, to provide valet services to the licensees. So I brought this up to you before. I'm bringing it up again. I think it's in the board's responsibility to do something about it. You know, I don't understand how we can be violating this, so I don't want to approve any more licenses. That's why I wanted to talk about it. And I'm asking again for the board to exercise its oversight duty and please address this issue.
Thank you. Trustee Pavesa.
Reading on some of the information, are we really adding an extra one, or is it because of the litigation at the one hotel that we're doing this?
It's my understanding we're transferring it from one entity to the other, but Doug, please correct me if I'm
Well,
wrong.
I'd like Attorney Durkin to address that. He's been involved on this issue.
The property owner of this hotel is in a mortgage foreclosure case, and so the court appointed a receiver for that property. And because the liquor license is held in a different entity than the party to the lawsuit, the property owner, you're actually authorizing the issuance of a separate license to the receiver that was appointed by the court. The current license holder, the receiver's attorney has represented to me that they will surrender that license when the receiver receives the license, so that there's continuous operation there. So you're actually creating an additional license, which will then be reduced by one with the surrender of the license from the actual current license holder.
So they'll surrender it when the legal action is taken care of and finished?
Yes, the receiver needs to be licensed because the receiver only steps into the shoes of the people that have interest in the real property that are in the mortgage foreclosure action, the owners of the hotel. So the liquor license holder is not a party to that litigation, but there's going to be both a state license and the local license that will undergo this revision. But it's an actual issuance of a new license. So the ordinance calls upon you to increase the number of B liquor licenses from 4 to 5. That will then be reduced back to 4 when that license is surrendered.
Under those conditions, I don't see any problem with authorizing the extra liquor license.
Trustee Scapa.
I agree that for the operation to continue from the old owner to the receiver, so that they can sell liquor in the bar and restaurant. I motion to approve ordinance amending section 2509, chapter 25.
I approve it.
Did you motion?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we had a motion.
Oh,
and a
didn't have that
second. I
motion,
think
okay.
comment
Then I'll
just started.
second it.
So, I'm sorry, Trustee Snyder, Trustee Mattel, any comments?
So this is like a temporary license that we're increasing. It's like a,
It's going to be a temporary increase in the number. The license that you're going to create that is going to be issued to the receiver, I don't know how long that will last, but the receiver is not going to turn things around in a matter of weeks or several months. So it may be a year, it may be less than a year, it may need to be renewed. But the receiver needs to be licensed because they don't succeed to the license that was issued to an entity that's not a party to the lawsuit. Only the owner of the real estate is a party to the mortgage foreclosure action.
There's no issue with you're just filling the hole, making sure that you continue operation for the time. You're not increasing anything, you have no problem.
Yes, generally, I've consulted with the State Liquor Commission. We generally, in these circumstances, allow the receiver to just sign on to the new license, add their name to the new license, but because the license is not issued to somebody that the receiver has control over, we have to actually issue a new license in this case, both at the local level and at the state level.
So in your opinion, there would not be two entities on this physical property selling liquor?
That's
There'd be
correct.
one entity?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments or discussion? Was there a motion?
Yes.
And a second?
Yes.
Any other further discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Please take the roll.
That's a roll call.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes,
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
No.
Trustee Francis?
Yes,
5-1.
thank you. Considerations, 8A, consideration of census-related mailings.
Yes, I'd like to ask Assistant Administrator Evan Walter, who is the staff liaison to the Complete Count Committee, to present this recommendation or consideration.
Thank you, Doug. Would you mind putting the mailer 8A up on the screen for everybody? Thank you, and I'll begin while I'm waiting. Thank you, Board. Thank you, Pro Tem Francis. This is consideration item 8A. This is related to census-related mailings. This is actually a recommendation from the Complete Count Committee. The Complete Count Committee has now met 3 times since it was formed earlier this month. This is the first such recommendation regarding village action from this committee. In short, this is a recommendation that the village board authorize 2 village-wide mailings in a not-to-exceed amount of $8,000 for a letter and a postcard notifying and informing all the residents of the village as to the upcoming census timeline that is occurring this spring. So as you can see here, we've drafted a letter and a postcard. They are both included in your packet. The letter would be sent first. This would be sent in the 2nd week of April. The postcard would be sent as more of a reminder, a nudge that, hey, this is still going on. That would be sent during April, the month of April. We have consulted with our village printer, who we use regularly to print items like business cards or other mailers. They provided us with a quote to produce postage and pack all of the letters and postcards for us for a not-to-exceed price of $8,000. There would be, if we chose to go this route, a small reduction in the cost if we were to mail these in-house, as in we have village staff package them, but it would require essentially my entire administration department to stop work for 2 days to do this. And so we would need to basically divert services away from things like permits, answering the phone. We'd be pretty much all hands on deck for 2 straight days to package these all up. So for about $750, the printer has agreed to do all the work for us. Again, this is a significant time savings for us as staff. They also feel like the quality would be well done because it would be done on a professional printer and a professional machine. To help offset some of this cost, we've applied for a $2,500 grant from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. They are responsible for managing census-related grants. We feel that our grant is very competitive based on the village's traditionally hard-to-count populations, including seniors, young person, and people whose first language is not English. So people who are from Arabic-speaking regions of the world and the like. Again, this requires village board approval because it's a non-regular village mailing, as well as to expend dollars outside of the administrator's signing approval. I'll be here to answer any other questions you might have about this recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Walther. Trustee Matal, as chairperson of the Complete Count Committee, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to invite everyone to attend an event which is being initiated by the Mayor's Caucus, and it's being sponsored by Forefront. It's on Wednesday, February 12th, from 12 to 3 at the Marriott in Burridge. We would like all of you to attend. There will be a lot of local heads of different organizations over there, and they will all talk about why it is very important to participate in the census. They will also tell you what the dollars are used for and how they help your village and communities, and why one should really talk to one's neighbors and friends and everyone you know to participate in it. So it's a very important thing. It happens only once in 10 years, so a lot of funding in the village, as the letter will state, comes from that. So I encourage everyone to attend this event at the Marriott, and I think there will be something on the village website as well, right? So please look for that information. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me after the meeting. Thank you.
And what was the date again on that, please?
12th, February 12th, coming Wednesday, 2 days from now.
Thank you.
From 12 to 3 at the Marriott in Burridge.
Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Schiappa? Trustee Pavesa? Trustee Snyder? Matal? Trustee Model?
Thank you. Yes, the question before us is to approve funding for the mailing, to do the mailing in-house, is that correct?
The question before you is to approve the creative format of this and the postcard, as well as to approve an all-in cost of not to exceed $8,000, which would cover printing, packaging, and postage of both mailers.
Thank you. Is that being done in-house or are we outsourcing that?
We're outsourcing it.
Can you tell me who the vendor is? That's,
Grasso Graphics.
what is it called?
Grasso Graphics.
Grasso?
Yes,
Graphics? Is this related to the mayor at all?
not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Questions or comments from the audience?
I've asked that same question, Zach. There's absolutely no relation between the mayor and Grosso Graphics.
It's a reasonable question. You could understand why I asked. Thank you.
That's why I asked it too.
Do you need a motion?
Is there a motion to approve the two mailings and also to authorize the expenditure of $8,000, not to exceed $8,000 for the printing and packaging of these?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please. Discussion on the motion.
I will go along with the motion on your word and everyone's word that this is not related to the mayor. So, thank you.
Yes. Public comment?
Any public comment on the motion? Roll, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Baveza?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. That takes us to item 9, public comments. Does anyone in the public would like to address the board at this time? Yes, sir. Your name, please. Up to the podium.
Good evening, my name is Bob Minitz, M-I-N-E-T-Z. I'm an attorney, I represent the developer Jarper Properties, who's developing the cottages at Drew subdivision at 7590 Drew Avenue. On behalf of our client, we submitted a request that the board reconsider the assessment of fees. When we sent our letter on January 28th, 2020, Evan Walters advised us that the proper procedure is to appear before the board and ask the board to set this as a future agenda item for the board's consideration. So what we're doing here today is not necessarily circulating the reasons for the reconsideration, which we are prepared to do if you'd like to see it. But we're asking that the board set a future date where we are on the agenda for a regular board meeting or a special board meeting for the reconsideration of the fees assessed for this particular subdivision. And we're here along with the engineer of the project to answer your question, and we're asking for that motion.
So it's my understanding you are asking this board, once again, to waive the impact fees for sidewalks and for parks. Is that correct?
And
schools?
And schools. But what we're asking for today, according to Evan Walter, the procedure is, we're asking that you set us in as an agenda item so the board and staff has time to review my letter, which explains the basis for the reconsideration. And so it can be done at a future date.
And you've asked for this consideration once before, correct?
No.
To have these fees waived?
Yes, they came before the board, I believe it was in December, at the time that the final plat was being approved. And at that time, they asked for a reduction in the fees.
Well, I was,
Approved.
my understanding is at that point that they certainly said the fees were too high and they should be reduced. Our formal request for reconsideration came from my firm under my signature on January 28th, 2020. And that's when we were advised the procedure was to ask that this be set as an agenda item so that the board and staff have time to consider the merits of the arguments put forth in my letter.
Thank you. Is there any interest of this board to put this on as a future agenda item to reconsider the waiving of the impact fees for the subdivision? Trustee Skiappa?
Has anything changed from what they asked for in December and what they're asking for in January?
Not
And what
from
they're
the,
asking for?
not from the village's perspective. They did, as the attorney stated, they submitted a letter last week, I believe it was last week, that I received a copy of it. I know Mayor Grasso received a copy, and as did Evan. I'm not sure who else received a copy. I have not had the opportunity to respond to that letter. I had intended to.
Okay.
But they did present a rather detailed explanation as to their reasoning for their request.
Trustee Model?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to see the letter. I didn't see the letter, and, you know, I don't know if it will change our mind, but it would only be fair to give them a hearing.
I would agree with trustee Model that it would be fair to give them a hearing since we haven't seen the letter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would ask that then staff then circulate the letter to the trustees
Will do.
and then review it, and then we'll discuss it at a future agenda item. As a future agenda
Is
item.
it consensus to put it on the agenda? On an agenda, or do you want to just receive the letter and then let staff know if you want it on the agenda?
What is the norm? We receive the letter, we come back, we put it on the agenda?
I would like to read the letter, then make a decision based on if there's any new additional information that we're submitting. Then make a recommendation to staff one way or another, whether as to have it as an agenda item
So
or
we can
not.
receive the letter, and then the 24th, we can either put it on or.
Yes, and staff still owes the gentleman a response to the letter as well.
Correct, okay.
So,
Would you like me to circulate it now or just hand it to staff?
I'm sorry.
Should I hand it to you or should I hand it to Evan?
You can give it to Evan, and then he'll make sure that we all receive it and have a chance to read it.
And then we should appear on the 24th or
No,
not?
wait to hear from staff, please.
Wait to hear from staff.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience, please? Yes, sir?
Good evening. My name's Adolph Kalinsky. I'm a resident of Burr Ridge.
Yes.
So I had a primary comment, but I'll also give you, I had a question regarding, you can send it to you, it's on the website, so it's section 2.67, it's a rule that says you'll have resident comments as number 3. So, I mean, that's a violation of the rules, right?
That, I apologize, but that was recently changed. In 2019, it was changed, that procedure, and we'll have to, I thought we had that changed on the website, but.
Do you want me to send you
apparently
the link to the website, Doug?
Pardon?
Should I send you the link to the website?
Please do, that
Yeah,
would be
I can do
helpful.
that.
I appreciate that. We'll
Okay.
get that fixed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, because in the past I've spoken, and I know I've spoken at the beginning. Anyway, reason I came, I watched the most recent board meeting, and I felt like I was watching a group of third graders at lunch recess. All 6 trustees and the mayor do not look good. I'm going to limit my comments to just a few points, key points. While it may be technically accurate to state Jack Model was not present for 5 board meetings, I believe it is more accurate to state Model attended 2 of these meetings by telephone, and the most recent meeting, fellow trustees refused to allow him to join by telephone. As a business person in the manufacturing space, I have employees and colleagues in 3 different states. My livelihood requires me to embrace well-established technology known as the telephone. I'm incensed when I witness names like this. I don't care if you disagree with each other. In fact, I don't expect you to agree with each other. A healthy team requires diverse perspectives to discuss and debate. However, the acrimony within this team is appalling. As a resident, I want to be clear that I expect better from all 6 trustees and the mayor. It's time to move beyond politics, focus on the business of the village, because there's work to be done. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you know who I am, but for the record, Awad O'Day, owner of Apex Motorworks. I'm here tonight again to ask for hopefully one of the board members to motion to reopen discussions into the potential issuance of a special use permit for our business. Since the last meeting in which I made some comments during the public comment section, I spoke to Mayor Gary a few times. I've met with Doug. We've went over all of the special use permits of all the other dealerships in the village. and discussed all of our previous violations and other matters. And like I said, I'm here again today in hopes that there will be a positive outcome and a consideration to at least open discussions to issue a special use for our business.
Thank you. Is there any interest on the board putting this on a future agenda item to reconsider Mr. O'Day's request? Trustee Paveza.
Does he have his, if the information I have here is right, does he have his problem settled with his landlord?
I would know.
I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
well-
us going through a lot of information, if your problem with your landlord isn't settled, it doesn't do us any good.
That makes absolute sense. I wouldn't be here if we aren't solving the problem. It will be solved within a couple of days. I wouldn't waste your time and ask for a special use permit if I felt like I wasn't going to be in the building. So yes, it will be resolved. And just to mention also, it's an important point, but our landlord kind of made it a contingency that we actually have a special use. So they kind of go hand in hand, obviously, a lease and a special use permit. You know, one without the other won't do us any good. So, you know, we'll be on the street, so to say. I'm hoping that we tackle both hurdles, and both hurdles, in my opinion, if you guys approve one of them tonight, will be solved within the next 48 to 72 hours.
Is there any interest in bringing this before the board again, and the trustees? Trustee Scapa?
Well, Mr. O'Day, I appreciate you coming out tonight to speak to us. What I've done is I've asked staff to kind of put a timeline together of the events of how this started and why we are here today. And it dates back to May 29th of 2019, when we sent you a letter advising you that your special use permit was is set to expire. Will be lapsing on June 12th. And from then on, it's just a series of trying to work with you, identifying violations, your non-response to us, and although I appreciate your response at the last meeting and this meeting, I think you're only responding because we didn't approve your ordinance, and if, let's say we were to approve your ordinance, I think we're gonna see more of the same, like non-response. That's your pattern, that's what you've shown us, that's what we know.
I appreciate that. In response to that, I will say that we applied for the special use, I believe, in October.
Which expired June 12th.
I fully admit to that, as I've admitted in past meetings. I've attended every meeting since I believe the meeting that took place in the beginning of December, except for the one where you guys denied our special use. This is, I think, my 5th or 6th meeting, except for that meeting that I've attended. Even the meetings, in addition to the zoning commission or committee meetings, I think, which were 2 or 3 until they got to the point where they issued a suggestion to the board of trustees. I've said this countless times. We had violations. We have never had repeat violations. We have never outwardly defied any notice by staff, and I think Doug will attest to that. We had, I think, 2 or 3 violations that they told us about, immediately rectified the situation, never went back to doing the same thing and got a second violation. Should we have even or had the door open for a violation? No, definitely not. I totally understand that. I agree with you. We took full responsibility. I was hoping that, I don't know if there's anything in the in Burridge code that would allow the village to fine us for these violations, just to make it up and to show you that, you know, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, in addition to the fact that, like I said, I've been at this for, I believe, like 2.5 to 3 months now with the meetings, and I mean, we've been out of business practically for almost 2 months now. And as Trustee Paveza mentioned, the issue with our landlord, we're barely able to stay afloat at this point. We just want another chance to prove ourselves. I mean, put anything you guys want in the code or in the conditions that says that if we violate anything, you can, you know, pull our permit immediately. I have no problem with that. all I'm asking for is another chance, and I'm hoping that you guys will find it in your hearts to give us that chance. It's, I mean, honestly, I can't help but get the feeling that, you know, since day one, we were, you know, in a position that didn't really help the business, and now, after meeting with Doug and reviewing the 4 special use permits for the other businesses that were in Burr Ridge, the dealerships, that, you know, it's something that, in my opinion, shouldn't have been imposed on us from day one, but it was with these conditions. Not a single other dealership has such harsh conditions imposed on them as us. Now, without you guys even saying it, I agree to those conditions. So we take blame, we take fault for, you know, these violations, which we, you know, got to because of the dire situation that we were in. I'm hoping that we go forward in a very clear manner. The mayor advised me be open, truthful, honest about what you want, about what you expect, what you would like to see in the special use permit as far as conditions. And I told him, Mayor, this is what we've been asking for since day one. All I want is to have a long-lasting relationship with the village of Burr Ridge and for my business to flourish. I'm really hoping that you guys will give us that chance.
Any questions or comments?
Wasn't one of the
Trustee Snyder.
stipulations in 2017 that this gentleman was going to bring to us financials on a regular basis? That was one of the stipulations?
There was no requirement for reporting.
Not required?
It was not required that they report.
It-
For
it-
example, with Global Luxury Imports, there was a condition that on a quarterly basis, they had to submit written reports. That was not a requirement of this business. It was simply that they meet these certain goals, sales
A
goals.
special use permit was granted for the
Yes.
sales of cars. Was it granted for rentals of exotic vehicles?
No,
Was it granted for doing any kind of repairs or service work on vehicles?
only to cars sold by that business, correct, Evan?
These are cars that were owned by Apex.
Right,
Not to anybody else?
right. Only those cars they currently own at the
And
time.
how long did they rent the vehicles from 2017?
Evan, do you want to
No.
step up and answer this for me? You know the dates better than I do.
So I do not have an exact date as to when rentals started.
Rough one's fine.
Sometime in the beginning of last year, I remember listening to a Cubs game on the radio, and I hear Prestige Exotics, 16 West 260 83rd Street, which is this business. Obviously, rental was never specified in the special use, and so that's when some investigation began as to what was occurring regarding rental activity. The rental activity was clearly specified as something that needed to cease and desist in my August letter of this past year regarding the special use renewal. To my knowledge, the rental business never did actually cease. It simply kind of occurred while the special use was being renewed, or at least the application for a renewal occurred. And I don't have any updated knowledge as to the actual rental business today, but at no point was rental activity ever permitted at the subject use, and it was absolutely going on before the special use renewal was provided to me in August of 2019.
And it's Prestige Motors is the one that's doing rent?
Prestige Exotics.
Sorry?
Prestige Exotics?
Is that part of Apex?
No, but it's DBA of Apex.
So it's another whole business for a special use?
So let me just clarify that. The Plan Commission considered Prestige Exotics to be kind of a doing business as Apex, and so they considered them two businesses in one use. You'll note in the special use conditions that all of the conditions that were imposed on Apex were then imposed on Prestige and vice versa. So we didn't want to have to worry about, is this an Apex use? Is Apex violating something if they were, or is Prestige violating it if they were? And so we wanted to make sure they were kind of shaking hands at all times within the special use, and we didn't want to have that crossover between one to the other. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
And to answer the question on when we started, it was June of 2019, and yes, it was before we applied for the special use. When we got the cease and desist from Evan, we stopped advertisements, radio, billboards, things like that. We had reservations out there. We have reservations for 2020 that, you know, a lot of them were just telling people for the last couple of months, we're sorry, we cannot do business out of this location. We've been trying to do business out of a small place that we have close to the city, you know, just to abide by these regulations, by these conditions, and by, or at least I should say, to not have any further violations in the village of Burr Ridge.
Thank you.
Questions or comments or discussion? Trustee Baveza?
According to staff, they've asked you several times and you haven't provided sales information. Have you provided it yet?
Yeah, we provided it when we applied for the special use.
When?
I think it was October or November or
They
something.
did, okay. Because it isn't on the sheet here.
I'd like to clarify the question. So there were two things that we asked for, or I should say, two things that have been asked for regarding sales data over the past, since this started. The first was related to the special use approval or approval process. That information was provided through September of last year. There was also a condition from the board as part of the initial discussion that A, the signs come into compliance, and B, that sales data be provided by the end of January. We have received the sales data through the end of September 19, but I have not received sales data since that time. I remember very distinctly that was a direction from the board that an updated sales figure be provided. I think it was Trustee Snyder who mentioned it. That has not brought forward.
We actually have none. We have no sales since, almost since the end of August, beginning of September. Yes.
So let me ask you this. So over the past 2 years, since you've had this permit, would you consider your business profitable, or is it like in a startup phase?
It's totally startup. As far as profitable, absolutely not.
Then what would change if we did extend this permit? What would change to make it profitable? It
That's a
doesn't
good
look
question.
like a profitable model.
That's a very good question. So two things. First of all, since November, we've had an agreement with a partner that has his own dealership. He's been in his dealership for about 11 years now on Ogden Avenue in Downers Grove. And we are giving full management of his dealership to him.
Who's that?
Star Motor Sales.
So is that okay?
Excuse
with-
me a second. The question before the board is, do we want to grant this gentleman more consideration, another agenda item in a future meeting, so he could plead his case for a special use permit? And is there any support to allow that at the board level?
So I think in the spirit of, we gave Cottages of Drew another look. I think we give him another look to see if we can have
Trustee
a conversation about it. And
This thing is drug out for quite a while. What I'd like to see before the next meeting is staff get together with Mayor Grasso and the attorney and give us a recommendation as to what they feel with information so we can vote on it.
So you would like it to be an agenda item?
Yes, at the next meeting, and that'll be it. But again, the attorney, Mayor Grasso, and staff would present their complete opinion on where we should go, and then we can vote on it.
let's have a thorough conversation about it.
I don't know that the village attorney is gonna have an opinion on whether you should vote to approve a special use or not. So I can tell you how to go about doing it, but whether you do that or not is a policy question.
Well, according to this, there's several other items that are in trouble with him for being free and clear on the lease and other things.
Once again, I can give you my opinion as to whether that's a legal impediment. I understand that there's issues regarding rent or the status of the lease. Quite frankly, if the applicant doesn't have a tenancy at that location, a special use is gonna go unused. So,
Trustee Mattal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not in favor of reconsidering, and sir, I hear what you're saying. I feel that we gave you a fair hearing in December, and we did actually approve a special use for you at that time, if I'm understanding and recalling correctly. And we heard your argument, we gave you a special use, and then you came back and wanted more again. I'm done. I'm concerned for yourself and your business. I hope you can, you need to protect yourself, sir.
Trustee Snyder?
the board did not approve the special use at any point in time.
Right.
There was a recommendation to staff, direction to staff.
We were moving in that direction, and then there were more requests, and I just feel like the goalposts keep moving.
When the matter came up for an actual vote on the ordinance approving the special use, there were only 2 votes in favor of that ordinance and 3 votes opposed.
Because there were additional requests that I think
Okay.
the three.
For whatever
Thank you.
reason,
Thank
yes.
you.
Trustee Snyder?
The timeline is there. This term permit's up, staff sent it in May, didn't bother renewing it. My vote is no.
I would support giving this gentleman a second chance to plead his case before us without committing to any approvals, without committing to any timeline or 1 year, 2 year, 3 year permits. So that's where I stand on this. So do we need a motion for this? or
No,
not?
you can't vote on this because it's not on the agenda, but if there's objection from a majority, or I've heard from 5 members here as to whether they want this back on the agenda, so.
Trustee Mattal?
No, I don't want it back on the agenda.
So 3 trustees would like to see it on the agenda at a future date, and 3 trustees would not.
You would, right?
Yeah.
I would. You
Yeah.
didn't.
So 3-3, we're at a stalemate here. So, thank you, Mr. O'Day. Anyone else in the audience like to make a comment, or please step up? I'm sorry, Mr. Bittner?
So I wanted to pick up, Yvonne Mayer, wanted to pick up where Mr. Galinsky left off. Don't really agree with all his observations, but one, which is that it is time for this village to move forward without distractions, without any more sandbox, sand throwing. But in this case, I'm focused my attention on one trustee who's been throwing the sand and can't seem to control himself, and that's Mr. Model. And so tonight, I'm going to ask Mr. Model if he could just please stop acting like a child. There's a movement out there seeking his resignation. The reality is he's not going to resign. But hopefully, he can step back and understand that he's a grown man and he needs to start behaving like one. Instead, he continues his attacks on a highly respected community member, the wife of Trustee Chapa. And this week, in the Burridge Patch, he said he stood by his criticism of Patricia Chapa. Because during the campaign, he said, and that was his campaign to run for mayor, which we all know he lost, he said Chapa attacked him and his family's business by posting documents from out-of-state litigation involving a family dispute in connection with the business. And in quotes, he said, "It had nothing to do with me." So he said he was fine with Patricia Chapa attacking him, but not his family. Now, I've read all those documents that were all over social media, and what Mr. Model said to the newspaper, and the newspaper printed it, sadly without researching whether it was true, what he said is false. At no time did Ms. Chapa attack his family or his family's business. She set forth documents, legal documents, that described Mr. Model's behavior. And it went to the issue of his temperament and how he couldn't behave himself. And basically, the company and his family didn't even want his involvement anymore. So that went to temperament. That was a legitimate thing to put out there because people had to decide whether they wanted to vote for Mr. Grasso or Mr. Model. So I resent the fact that Mr. Model continues to lie. He lies about what other people do. It's called defamation. These are private citizens who he's attacking, and I hope one of them sues him for slander and defamation, because maybe that's what it's going to take for him to stop this behavior. Since he's not going to resign, I am asking you tonight, Mr. Model, to stop your behavior. It is not productive. It is not constructive. It is destructive. And there is nothing to be gained by you continuing to attack private residents in your vendetta against Mr. Grasso and your vendetta against him winning the mayorship back and you not winning it. So I'm asking you tonight to please, if you're not willing to do that, then please consider resigning, because it's what's needed in this village for everyone to move forward and be able to just focus on the business of the village.
Thank you. Mr. Bittner? Did you want to speak?
John Bittner, 2 Hidden Lake Drive. Burridge. When I moved into Burridge 46 years ago, it was a little quieter village, a little friendlier village, and a little bit nicer. I was here 2 weeks ago watching this all transpire. What was disappointing is not what was said, it was how it was said. Zach was on television, and not one of you trustees, not one of you said, leave him on the phone. You disconnected him. Then you attack him. Why did you attack him? Why? Why didn't you wait? Would you like that to happen to you? I wouldn't want it to happen to me. I think that's just rude. I think that was absolutely terrible. I would like to have this board make a new rule. You cannot pick on any trustee, that means all of you, unless you're here. Not behind their back. Give them the ability to justify what's being said and be able to pretend that they can protect themselves and what's being said. This is absolutely wrong what you did. Absolutely wrong. And you should all be ashamed of yourselves.
Anyone, thank you. Anyone else in the audience like to speak? Okay. Reports and communications from village officials.
Nothing from staff.
Mr. Model.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to take the opportunity to ask the board and the chair for a reset of relations among the trustees. I think that I'm hearing, comments, some I agree with, some I don't, and I won't respond to some of those. But I think that I had planned to come and ask for a reset tonight. I think that it is unfair that we've gotten to this point. So often we work well together. We see this on many, many issues. We're in agreement. And I understand that many of you don't agree with me. You might not agree that it's a problem that there seems to be a violation of the State Officials Employees Ethics Act. You might not agree with me of my opinion of certain staff members, but that doesn't give you the right to block me from participating, silence me improperly, and in fact censure me. I think the censure vote was unfair and improper. I also wasn't there. I was on an airplane at the time. Two of the trustees knew where I was. I asked you all to postpone the censure vote till the next meeting when I could be there to talk about it and respond to it. And again, I think it was improper and unfair that you censured me while I was there, and quite frankly, to take a vote to censure me. I broke no rules. You might disagree with my opinion of staff's competence, but I'm a trustee in the village, and that's my purview. And we can have a discussion about that here in the meeting. And we should have a discussion about the State Officials Ethics Act. I've talked about these issues, and I'm being ignored. I'm being silenced, and I'm being censured. And that's wrong. And I think if you could defend the issues on the merits, we'd have a discussion here. Instead, you block me, you tell the staff not to work with me and give me information. The mayor does. He pushes you to censure me. He's using you as political pawns, in my opinion, and you do it when I'm not here. That's the worst of it. I've done my best to be here for the meeting. I missed one meeting because I was on vacation, and the other one when I was on the airplane. I would be happy to provide the proof of the flight records. I was traveling for business. Furthermore, the meeting last week, last month's meeting, where I was also traveling for business, yet I was here calling in to participate, willing and able to serve, trying to take care of my business, my family, as well as my responsibilities here. And I was fully prepared to participate. I wanted to talk about the budget. I had questions and comments about the budget, an issue that matters very much to me, but you improperly denied me from participating. So I'm calling for a reset. I'd like you to stop blocking me from participating, and if I have to call in for business, and I know the village, I have reviewed the rules of the village. I think it's section B says, when practical, trustee shall give 48 hours notice. First of all, it's not always practical for me. I'm on call and on duty. And second of all, I've had some issues and threats related to my safety and a variety of issues, and I really don't think people need to know exactly when I'm home or not home. I will give you the most notice that I can, but I don't think it's appropriate. Particularly, I have some concerns with the mayor and some of his friends and associates. So I really don't want them to know where I am for my own safety. And I'll let you know in the morning, and I think that's practical enough. So please stop blocking me, and I would ask you to please consider rescinding the censure. I didn't violate a rule. It was your opinion that my language, when I said that a staff member was being insubordinate and incompetent. And that was a private email. That was not public. The mayor made that public. You all made this public. I would have much rather had the discussion in private, perhaps even in a closed session related to an employee's behavior. And that would have been where it should have stayed. It should never have been made public in this way, and it should not have resulted in a censure, because I'm simply doing my job. Again, you can disagree with me that things like the State Employees Ethics Act are childish and not important. You can disagree with me that my belief that when staff members are being paid high salaries and high pensions, that they should be performing to a high level, but you shouldn't censure me and block me over it. So please, I would like to reset relations with the board. I would like you to consider at a future meeting revoking the censure, and I would like to move forward in good relations here. I will watch my language. I was aware that at not the last meeting where I was blocked, but the one before, I made some comments under my breath. I will refrain from doing that in the future, and I'd like us to be working together. I can disagree with the mayor, I can call him out on things, and I can talk about that, and you should just listen to it and run it to ground. If you think it's false, let's run it out to ground and prove me why I'm wrong. But don't treat me this way. It's wrong. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Trustee Snyder.
I've been a trustee for a while, and many other trustees have owned businesses, as some of our residents also own businesses, and things are going on. I'm in sales. I can change my means. But in the village of Burridge, has 48 hours been has it been acceptable enough that not a trustee can't notify 48 hours in advance? We can't have we needed Zach for a quorum, so we're gonna get told he's gonna, I disagree with Zach on this one, or trustee Milo, I should say. If it's 48 hours, it's plenty. Even Zach in business, myself in business, anyone else, we know in 48 hours, we have enough time. It's a Monday, so you're gonna tell me Saturday, Sunday, we can still contact anyone from the village. We hear all our numbers, you could have contacted the mayor and said, Mayor, I've got a meeting. And then from there.
Thank you.
Other comments?
I agree, we should be able to do it in 48 hours. I know my business, I can't remember the last time I got on a plane the next day.
Well, you don't know. May I respond to that?
Trustee Scapa.
Yeah, I try to give as much time as possible. We got our calendar early this month. I plugged all the dates for all of the committees that I belong to and the village board meetings in there, and I block those out. There are some exceptions where I'm on vacation with my family. Luckily, my business is here. I don't have to travel far for it. I don't agree with your comments about my wife. I guess that's okay, but they're not true. And as a public official, you shouldn't be saying that. Just like you're calling somebody incompetent or insubordinate, you're calling a private citizen someone that viciously attacks. If you look up viciously attacking on Google, what does that show you? It shows terrorists doing bad things to innocent people. And that's what you called my wife. She's not that person. And I want an apology and a retraction. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Model.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're entitled to your opinion of me. You've used those words that I used, you said I was abhorrent. You said all kind of things. I'm not going to argue with you about that. You're entitled to your opinion. All of us as trustees are peers here. We are all entitled to our opinion. And that is not something that's up for debate here. We can debate the merits of the issue and all walk away with our different opinions and disagree, but I'm not going to force you to like me or change your belief of me, and I don't expect you to force or me to change my belief of you or your wife's behavior. I also am aware you received an email today from the owner of that business who was in those documents, who was rather disappointed, not just disappointed, distressed by the publication of those documents, and that there were other Burridge residents who were in those documents who didn't need their business made public. This is a private business. I am not the shareholder of that business. Those things should never have been made public.
You told me you're an owner
That's fine.
of the business.
That's fine.
Didn't he tell us he's the owner of the business?
Excuse me.
That's fine.
Trustee Model has the floor.
So again, we're all entitled to our opinions. That doesn't mean we're breaking the rules, or we should be censured, or we should be blocked, just because we don't like each other. I want you to have a fair participation, and I'll listen to your criticisms of me. I think I should get the same fairness. And as far as, Trustee Snyder, I understand what you're saying, but like I said, unless you're gonna guarantee my personal safety, my home safety, I don't need the mayor telling some of his friends where I am and where I'm at. I've filed reports with the chief.
I
as he was
object to
here
that.
today. Excuse me, I'm finishing my report. I've filed reports with the chief. My concerns have been documented, what's going on here, and you're welcome to check with the chief on it, but I don't think any of you can guarantee my home and my safety, so I don't think it's practical right now, and it's my opinion. Furthermore, you've missed, I think, at least as many meetings as me and called in. I'm fine with you missing meetings. I once asked if you were on business, you stated it, I agreed, and I voted for it. I think it's unfair. I think you've also called in for reasons that weren't business or health. I don't know if that's allowed in the Open Meetings Act, but I'm not making that an issue for you right now. I think we should work, again, together, and you should let me participate the best way that I can when it's for my business, when it's for my safety. It's really not the purview of this board. I was present, willing, and able to serve.
Thank you.
I have a
So,
question.
I'm sorry.
So if he calls in 48 hours before the meeting that you can't attend, you don't have to disclose where you're going.
You do, let's clarify with the village attorney, but the Opens Meeting Act, my reading of it understands, there's two reasons, health or business. You must state the reason.
But you don't have to declare where you're going for business. You can just say you're out of town for business.
You're required to state the reason why you're absent at the meeting. We asked that at the meeting.
Okay.
So,
I
the
comply
person's
with
already
that.
out of town then, so.
So then that's fine.
I comply
The
with that.
announcement as to what the reason is, doesn't have to be made 48 hours in advance, but the request to attend remotely says 48 hours if practicable.
And Attorney Durkin, is that in the village ordinance or in the Open Meetings Act?
It's in the village code, the 48 hours.
It's not part of the Open Meetings Act.
48-hour notice? I have the statute here. Nope, there's no time limit. It says according to rules adopted by the public body and according to the public body's rules, it's 48 hours if practicable. You may be referring to the reasons why. It's for personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or the business of the public body, or a family or other emergency. That's a reason why you could be allowed to participate remotely, but the 48 hours is part of the rules in the Village of Burr Ridge's code.
Okay, if you have concerns about this, Trustee Amano, about the procedure and about the policy, please get with the mayor. Funnel your questions through the mayor as per his policy to staff, and they will answer your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. One final comment. I appreciate Trustee Model's willingness to work with everyone and extend the olive branch, but the most important rule, in my opinion, that was violated was the golden rule, and that's treat others as you wish to be treated. And I haven't seen that happen lately. I haven't seen that happen since the election. So I would appreciate if Mr. Model would apologize to these folks that he has insulted, to the staff members that he has abused and demeaned, and to the volunteers in this village who he has made false accusations to. And that will go a long way to healing the relationships on this board. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
You can vote by acclamation.
I'd like to hear the roll call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Baveza?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes, thank you.